Habits November. So cultivating good habits. Now, that can be off-putting when we say we have to cultivate new habits, where it's okay, you're trying to change what I regularly do. I do things the way I do them for a reason. It works for me. I don't like anyone or any book or anything telling me that I have to live differently. That's the first layer of resistance. Second is it's disheartening. It's like when you have to scale a mountain, you stand at the very bottom and you look up, can't even see the top, and you say, man, cultivating new habits is the same way, where I don't feel like I can even get up to this level of growth that's required. It's another feeling that can be there. Thirdly, it's the pain of having to even think about things I don't want to think about. It's easy for me to point the faults of someone else, looking at myself in the mirror and saying I have to change in these ways. That's nearly impossible to do. Not because I'm not capable of changing. I don't want to change. I don't want to have to look at myself even with a critical eye. I think I am the superhero of my own life, and any kind of blame I have to assign myself in a relationship, blame I have to assign myself in how I work, blame I have to assign myself in lapses in my judgment and thinking, I do not want to have to go through that. Again, easy to do it to someone else. To do it to myself is a Herculean task. So for these reasons, cultivating any new habits, it just doesn't seem like something I want to put myself through. Now, whenever someone who is in charge of having to talk about these things says, cultivate this good habit and live this way, stay away from this, it's really easy to see that as patronizing as well. So even having a Sadhana Challenge month where this is the topic, it can get on people's nerves and people end up not liking me because I'm the guy that's to take up the challenge like this. This is where we look to Puja Gurudev for inspiration. Whenever he would present these ideas, it would never come from a patronizing standpoint of holier than thou. It would never come from a guilt-ridden standpoint of you're doing things the wrong way, therefore to live the right way, here's what you must do. That was never the tenor. And the proof is there in his writings and how he spoke to people as well. For instance, one of my favorite essay collections by Puja Gurudev is Art of Man-Making. There were 114 lectures that he gave on the radio on Bhagavad Gita, like really short snippets, small lectures, and they were transcribed into various essays. So in one section about the second chapter of Gita, he goes into this topic of self-control. Now we could very well start with saying that self-control is the way to be, that's what brings you closer to divinity, therefore go ahead. That's not his standpoint at all. He takes it in 5 different parts. First part, and this should sound familiar to you because we did go through this about a year ago, okay? The first part that he goes into is the logic of self-control. Not simply saying that you must do this because it's the right thing to do or God says so. That's not his standpoint. Logic. When I do what I want to do, I feel happy. However, it's only temporary because evading responsibility for just what makes me happy at that moment ultimately leads to addiction. It leads to me hurting the people around me. It leads to me hurting myself. He goes through all this logic. Logic of self-control. Why to curtail my desires. After looking at the logic, then goes into benefits of self-control. How, okay, logically, it doesn't work when I just do whatever I desire. The benefits of reining in my senses and actually following some kind of code of conduct I give myself, abstaining from things that I shouldn't get into, these are the benefits that come with it. And I could have said to myself, okay, I could follow any path for this. Why self-control? Third part, tragedy of not having self-control. To show the other side. That when I don't cultivate this habit or mindset or tendency, this is what can happen. This is what will happen. This is what has happened. So we've seen logic, benefits, tragedy of not having it. Fourth part, blessings of self-control. Now, reading just the titles, you'd think blessings of self-control in a religious context would mean, okay, I've pleased Bhagavan, therefore he blesses me. That's not the tenor he takes here either. It's that because I have control over myself, to not do what I want to do and to do what I don't want to do, I am blessing myself in that process. That's the blessings of self-control. Finally, part number 5, the secret of self-control. Up until this point, I can say self-control makes me a better person in my relationships, makes me a better worker, makes me a better parent, a better friend. All of these things, that's what it's meant for, just this daily life. He points out that no, the real secret of self-control is that's what takes me to that highest. Always keeping moksha in mind as that one and only final goal. So much to learn from that step-by-step process he gives. It's not in a patronizing way. It's not done to shame anyone or guilt anyone. That's usually fear tactics that are used in religion. We see it all around us. That's not the spirit of the Shastras. That's not the spirit of Gurudev. Now, the challenge in this month is, how do we inculcate this idea of these new habits with a simple framework? Something that's not too complicated. Because there are those habits that come with my physical environment, what I eat, when do I wake up, what do I consume in terms of media for my own physical and mental health, how do I travel, all of these things are on the physical plane. Mental plane, when I speak to people, how do I avoid negativity, how do I take on the negativity I have to have, and how do I deal with it well, how do I take on challenges that come up with the relationships in my life, how do I deal with the stress that comes up, these are all emotional. Then intellectual as well, there's a whole host of habits that come up there. What do I tell myself to maintain confidence when it wanes? How do I ensure that I'm thinking clearly without falling for my emotions and making sure I'm strong intellectually in my decision making? How do I trust myself to understand what's around me the right way? There are habits to inculcate in all these different areas. It seems like there's no one framework to make it easy for us. There is a framework to make it easy for us, built into our Shastra, that is analyzing ourselves using the gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. Now, a cursory glance at the gunas, we see that, okay, it's really basic. Tamas means that it's not much energy. Rajas means, it's a lot frenetic energy and passion and all of this, and sattva is goodness. We leave it at that. There's so much more to analyze here. One place we look at Srimad Bhagavad Gita. We've gone through that in all the different layers. What is an austerity in terms of these 3 gunas? Where a tamasic austerity, it's one that on its face, it looks like it's something to control my senses, but at the end of the day, it actually hurts me. Rajasic austerity is one that I just brag about. I haven't eaten in 3 days kind of a thing. Sattvic austerity is one that it's not performative. It is to help. And it cuts down at my likes and dislikes, which is the intention of taking up any kind of austerity. Now, it's not just Bhagavad Gita. This analysis is peppered in throughout various texts. If we look at Srimad Bhagavatam, the 11th canto, near the end of the text, there's one beautiful section called Uddhava Gita. Bhagavan Sri Krishna's cousin and really good friend Uddhava, before Bhagavan's final ascent, he says, I have some questions for you. Can you answer them? So whatever knowledge he gave Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, it's essentially the same knowledge, more in depth. It's longer than Bhagavad Gita. It's called the Uddhava Gita. In that section, there's one parable that's given of how Bhagavan takes the form of a swan, Hamsa, and he gives this knowledge to the Sanat Kumaras. And so it's called the Hamsa Gita, an awesome section. So one of my first Jnana Yajnas that I took as a brahmachari a couple years ago was on this Hamsa Gita. So in this section then, there's a whole analysis of various departments of life according to the gunas. Now let's see how we can relate that to habits here. That's the final goal. Today is to look at how we can look at these different areas of life and put them into making good habits for ourselves. The first one that he looks at is called apaha. Apaha means water. In this case, water meaning what is consumed at the most physical level. The more we analyze disease and just problems, whether it's physical wellness, mental wellness, a lot of it can be traced back to what we consume. And more, it seems that we have a real hard time getting away from processed crap when it comes to food. And I know you slap the word organic on something and it gives you the right to raise the price by about 20%, but even that is suspect, the quality of that food. Now, that wasn't always the case in this country. There used to be much stricter regulations on food. It was fresh. It was sourced to local farms and things like this. You didn't have to go to a farmer's market to get fresh food. It was available. Over time, companies cut corners. You find lots of pesticides and things like that. And the fact that people want strawberries in December. So that means even when it's not in season, they have to do something to make sure that stuff grows. And, everything in Texas, I guess, is bigger, right? So you'll find strawberries like this big. That's not natural. All right, there's chemicals and stuff they put in there to make that happen. We enjoy all of this, but it's to the detriment of our health. And you look at rates of cancer in society today, all over the world. It's gotten much higher. It's spiked because of what is consumed. That's one level then, okay? The quality of stuff that's consumed. Then it's, what do I choose to consume? This is another. Coming out of a college lifestyle, weekly alcohol intake till you pass out is not uncommon. That hurts the body as that's sustained over and over. Okay, it really does hurt the body. So that's one other layer, drugs, alcohol, the what I'm consuming that actually hurts me. Third layer of this when it comes to habits, though, is what am I doing it for? If someone tells me, in the Shastra it says sattvic food is to be consumed, don't consume meat, don't consume alcohol, it's the way to live, that's the way God wants us to live, I'm less inclined to take that route, especially if I enjoy consuming alcohol and taking drugs and things like this. That's not the logic that's going to appeal to me. Without shraddha, without that faith in that higher, this logic will not appeal to me. So finding a logic that does appeal to me, that's not grounded in guilt, that's not grounded in judgment, just in wellness for an individual. We find that when alcohol is sustained over time, to reach that critical point of feeling buzzed or feeling good from it, you need more and more to get to that point as you drink more. And yeah, it is based on the size of the person, all of these things as well, but general rule of thumb that's understood is over time you need more to get to that same point. That tolerance keeps increasing. And that's something people brag about, but it's actually quite dangerous. Because that means I need more and more to get to that point. Hurts health at the end of the day. So just because the body gets used to something and adapts to something does not mean that's the right course of action. That's the broader point here. Because humans are capable of amazing things. I'm in awe in those of you that live in places like Chicago or Minnesota or places like that. With this Texas body of mine, I'm like, humans aren't meant to live in those kind of places, is my opinion, especially from the months of like November till February or so. But humans are capable of doing that. You may think the same thing when you come down here for a Texas summer and you see it gets to 110 for 10 days in a row. You're like, what the hell? How do people live here? We adapt. Humans are very good at adapting to things. Now, there are some things to adapt to. But just because my body is able to survive taking the onslaught of all of these negativities does not mean I should partake in that. So if I can't make a faith-based appeal to myself, let this logical appeal be the first thing I start with. Now, a second layer of this, looking at it through the gunas again, we can say, yes, tamasic ahara or consumption is that which inebriates, that which is slowly digested, that which harms another being for my own consumption. This is all tamasic. Time and place matters as well. We just celebrated Deepavali, and I get invited to Deepavali events and things. One recent incident, I usually have a set of questions I ask people, like where is it, what time, all of this. Now, as sad as it is, if someone invites me for a corporate Deepavali gathering because of experiences I've had recently, I have to ask, are you serving meat and alcohol at this event? Because they'll want me to light a lamp, they'll want me to speak on the Festival of Lights and the Hindu significance, and they'll use me for all of that stuff. But then when it comes to them responsibly celebrating, they'll serve meat and alcohol. So when I saw that, I was like, are you serious? What is this? Like, is this how? And then their excuse was, oh, we invited a lot of foreigners, people that aren't Indian, therefore to appeal to them. So to appeal to people and to suck up to white people, we have to change our practices completely, turn a sattvic event into something tamasic so that we impress other people. Is that what we're falling for now? That is a tamasic ahara. And when it's expressed individually for oneself, that's one thing. In the name of something sattvic, saying it's Hindu, inviting a Swami Brahmachari to come and grace the event, and then to still serve these kinds of things, that's like next level nonsense right there. So think about this from, habits are not just for the individual, then think about it from a societal level as well. Because whatever people see they're more likely to follow, that's just human nature. We follow each other when it comes to what practices we do as they become acceptable. So where do we draw the line? Which is why I implore chicks all the time. When they come to me and say they're getting married, I'm happy for them. That's awesome. And they'll say, okay, we want to have a Hindu ceremony. Even better. Awesome. What is the level of sattva you're maintaining in that whole thing? Is it that you have the wedding ceremony in the morning and then the evening reception, you pop bottles and whatever you do? Or I've seen instances where while the pujari's finishing things up, people are already taking bottles out. That's tamasic. That will ruin a religion going forward. And I know when I say things like this, I sound like some, old-fashioned Debbie Downer that's like sitting on my front porch, get off my lawn kind of nonsense. But we are the final frontier of protecting the religion in these ways. As much as knowing the philosophy matters, all of this matters as well. I'd say practice is even more important than simply knowing Hinduism. I've said that many times. So ahara, what is consumed? There are so many habits we can form from this. Recently I was talking to a doctor, and they said, what you eat at the beginning of the day and the end of the day really matters a lot. Because what you eat at the end of the day before going to bed, your body has to burn that somehow, and it's really hard to do when you're asleep and you're not, moving and you're sedentary. So something light at that time, right? And I've been guilty of, I'll have a few sweets right before I go to bed. I'm guilty of doing that. Now, breakfast. We hear that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Eat a big breakfast. In the Sanskritam language, the word for breakfast is alpahara. Alpa means small. After you've been without taking food for an entire night and you've just been respirating, eating a big meal right off the bat in the morning, that's a shock to your system. So according to Ayurveda, then, have something small, like a fruit, something that gets you going. Coffee, I know a lot of people, it dries you out, but coffee is something we take as well for the caffeine boost. But how much do I take? How frequently do I intake? What is the quality of what I intake? This is a perfect place to build habits right there. Then what else is analyzed in the Samsa Gita? Another thing that is analyzed is kala, time. Time is also analyzed in terms of sattva, rajas, and tamas. In what way? Tamasic time is that time after sunset and before sunrise. I know for the virtue of having us all meet, we take this class during that time. But technically speaking, spiritual knowledge happens in the morning. That's why the Wednesday Panchadashi class, which so many attend in that morning time. But that's one of the reasons why. That's a spiritual time. But are there major decisions being taken at this time? Or is this when we literally want to let our demons out at this time? That's something to consider then. So how much of my decision-making capability, how much of my productive work and things I do, how much of that do I keep in the morning versus late at night after sunset? Now, sometimes it's unavoidable, staying up late and working. But even if we say I'm a night owl, don't we find that it's harder to concentrate? That's by design. It's a tamasic time. Rajas is during that day, after sunrise until sunset. That's the time for that hyperactivity. Time to get stuff done. Now, we look forward to the weekend because that's the time when I can stay up late on a Friday or Saturday night and wake up at like noon or 1 or 2 on the weekends. Half the day's already done by then. So if there was something productive I planned on doing, chances are it won't happen then. So a sleep cycle, that's one habit to cultivate. I know one of the earlier sadhanas was sleep early. This is more expansive. There's the whole sleep early, get up early. Yeah, we all understand that. Why though? If it's that, Brahma Muhurta, that's what the Shastras say, that may not appeal to me logically because of a lack of Shraddha at this stage. Okay, make it appeal logically then. How can I be more productive? What do I want to get done? And if I feel, okay, it's not important for me to be productive, I don't need to be up at this time, question myself even more. Why don't I want to be productive? Is it that I don't find purpose in what I do? Is it that I need to reassess parts of my life to see what is it that I find purpose in? Another one that we can look at, desha, place. Deshaha means place. That can also be taken as rajasic, tamasic, and sattvic. How? When it comes to where we stay and where we are, a sattvic desha is one that is clean, and the area inspires as well. I don't feel like I'm being overcrowded, and I don't feel completely overwhelmed by my surroundings. A tamasic desha is one that creates bad thoughts in me. Like dark colors everywhere, all over the walls. These kinds of things. I had to go to a city one time to give a lecture series for a week. And they had me in one of these like small cabin type of things, those like portable places. That's where, any visiting Swami Brahmachari stays. It was so weird that week where I'd be doing the lectures in the camp with the kids during the week and I was totally fine during the day. At night when I'd go back to that cabin, I'd feel like crying randomly. I'd have these like super negative thoughts. I'd just feel sapped of energy. I couldn't focus on anything. It just felt really weird. Sadhana was a challenge. The moment I step out of there in the morning after getting ready, I was fine again. And that was for a whole week, every single time I'd step in there. Something was off with the energy of that place. It's possible. When there's high negativity in a certain place that we stay in, if there's raised voices all the time, if there's lots of angst and people are always angry in there or fights breaking out all the time, that adds to the energy of a place. That's why they say there's never yell inside a temple. Part of it is, like a library, you want to be, sanctify the space and not be loud. Another is only allow positive energy to go into certain places. That's why there's one in Ramayana, the room that Kaikeyi goes into to sulk. It's called Gopa Bhavan, is what it's called. The place to be angry, the place to be distressed. So when she was in there, that's when Dasharath Maharaj knew, okay, something's wrong. She's in that room right there. What if we all had a room in our house just to be angry? Wouldn't that be great? Then your partners wouldn't have to worry why my partner is angry today. They're in that room right there, then you know right away, okay, they're not feeling good today. They're angry. Better steer clear of that place. So energy has a big effect like this. What else can we analyze through the gunas then? Desha we looked at, Kala we looked at, Braja we can look at. The company of the people that we find ourselves with. Tamasic company. Those kinds of people that I'm around, that makes me weak-minded. Either they spark me into negative action, either they put me down, either it's just negativity and gossip going on all the time, even to the extent of convincing me to do criminal things. That's tamasic. Like when you get your license for the first time, the thing that every parent hates is when their kid drives with other teenagers in the car. Because they're the ones that say, hey, floor it and get it to 90 on this side street right here. They'll give them all these stupid ideas like this. So even when we want to resolve to do something good, we find ourselves in negative company. That's what it turns into. Now, what we learned about Balvihara is stay away from bad people, be with good people. Okay, let's get deeper into that at this point right here. There are some relationships we simply cannot get out of. Family is one of those. It's impossible to get out of. We are in that. What is my role in this whole thing? Because what I'm seeing an increase of, and this is hard to look at sometimes, is where the family will have adult children that have their own families and they live in the same city. The grandparents don't even see the grandkids because they don't get along with their own kids. Right? There's a lot of negativity going on within the family right there. And it'll be where these parents are in their 60s and 70s now, but they don't get along with their own adult children for whatever reason. And it leads to a lot of discord, or they don't talk for months or years at a time. I'm seeing a lot of that. It's all over. Now, in that situation, one thing we can say is, our culture says you should always be there for your family, never fight with your parents, always see them as God. That's true, yes. At the same time, understanding what is my capacity to forgive, what is my capacity to let some things that don't matter as much, letting them go, what is my capacity to stand on business and say that this is a principle, this is not something I'll budge on. Even with family, yes, there can be these kind of boundaries. There should be, if things get out of hand. But understanding, what am I looking for in the long term right here? What is the importance of family for me in that long term? So it's nuanced. We can't say that, people make me feel negative, I got to get away from them completely. Sometimes that's not possible. Family is one example. The other is those people I'm in charge of helping. If I'm a parent, for instance, or I've agreed to be a mentor for someone, saying that they add negativity to my life because of the way they are, the way they talk, I have to leave them now, that's abandonment. The most I can do is, when I choose the relationships I want to have close with me, do they help me grow? And having relationships that are yes men around me all the time, that's not growth. Having someone that just affirms every single thing I want to do and says, oh yeah, you're right. That's a convenient friendship. That's not a sattvic friendship. A sattvic bond is one that holds me accountable to be a better sadhaka. In every way. Growing in terms of my ahara, what I consume. Growing in terms of what goals I want to have and how do I want to achieve those. All of these come under what a sattvic relationship is. So praja, company I keep, also has this framework of sattva, rajas, tamas. So we've seen it for praja, company. We've seen it for desha, place, kala, time. We saw it for apaha or ahara, what is consumed. Everything has this simple framework of sattva, rajas, and tamas. Cultivating new habits, growth spiritually, is simply how am I rising in these stages. And the hardest part of that is, where am I right now? Assess. Look at who are the top 5 to 10 people in my life right now that I talk to most. What is the nature of these relationships? Is it that I dread some of these? Is it that I feel some of them help me grow, so I seek them out, going out of my way? That tells me, what realm am I in with praja, company, sattva, rajas, or tamas? Then when it comes to the place that I find myself in, my surroundings, from my physical surroundings of my room and the areas outside, do I feel a good energy from these places? Do I dread coming back home after a long day, saying that my dwelling place is not the way I want it to be? Then going into kala, time, do I find I'm optimizing most of my time in some kind of productive way? Is it that I may sleep sporadically for about 8 hours every day, but I still don't feel refreshed? That means something's wrong with my resting pattern. Do I find that I spend 10, 12 hours at work or at school studying, I still don't feel like I'm retaining things? Something is wrong with the timing of what I'm doing then. Got to go into that. Unpack it further. Then when it comes to ahara, what I consume, at the very basic level, do I feel good at a physical level every day? Do I wake up in the morning feeling like, damn it, one more day I have to go to work or I have to do physically, how do I actually feel? And that's very subjective. You will know right off the bat, do I feel good? Mentally, how much agitation is there in my mind? How much fear is there? And there's so much connection between that mental and physical. Like we talk about how our guts feel sometimes, right? Butterflies when we're nervous. That dropping feeling in the stomach when we feel scared or anxious. Tightening of our muscles when we feel angry. All of that's so closely related. Physical affects the mental, mental affects the physical. No way around that. Now, analyzing all of this, the gunas are one way of looking at it. Then going into what are the kinds of habits I want to stick to improve in this way.